What's up? What's up, beautiful people? Happy New Year. What's up? Hopefully you all are doing very well and feeling these crazy vibes from the music, from this energy that I'm sending to you right now. You know you feel that bass going right through your chest. You know you feel these vibes right now. Go ahead and smile. You know you want to do it. You know you want to do it. What's up, everybody? This is your boy TW Suggs, and you are tuned in to another episode of the TOMMIE Talk Show, where we do all things hope, healing, inspiration, health, wellness. If that is where you are tuned into the right space. So listen, everybody, today's episode is super special, and we're focusing on preparing for a successful year. Preparing for a successful year. We are at the beginning of 2024, and we want to prepare you all for a successful year. We want to prepare your mind, your heart, your spirit, your body for a successful year. So listen, I went ahead and created this really dope pre-formatted description of the show, right, that I really want to read to you all so you can really get an idea of what we're doing today. All right. Starting a new year can come with mixed feelings. In 2023, there were a lot of hardships, victories, losses, triumphs, pains, growth, and lessons. As we embark on 2024, we are met with feelings of excitement for fresh possibilities and opportunities to get right what we didn't quite master the previous year. We make plans. Some of us still make resolutions, vision boards, and set or streamline our goals. Some of us reflect on the people who didn't make it, the battles we've lost, grief we've experienced, and the questions we still have. The purpose of this episode is to help you get in position for a successful year. Though we're a little into the new year already, we still feel it prudent to help ensure you, our valued community of listeners and supporters, have what you need mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially to prepare and position you for a successful new year. You know you want to go ahead and give a round of applause for that. You know you do. That was a dope intro right there, right? That's what we're doing today. We want to position you for a successful new year. Usually when we're starting off in a new year, you know, some of us aren't doing resolutions, but we make self goals and all that other stuff. And then probably like come February, March, it's like, what resolution? What self-goal? And we continue to complete the cycles that were in the previous year. So we want to make sure that you are set up for success. So we have guests coming on today who's going to help us do just that. But before we do, you know how we always like to start. I want to go ahead and give some birthday shout outs to our supporters, our listeners, and just friends and family of mine. All right. So first I have CJ Charles Jordan Steele. What's up, CJ? How you doing, little bro? AKA Choo Choo. Inside joke. That's my little brother, so I can call him that. We also have a January birthday for Tia Cherie. What's up? Happy birthday, sis. She is a singing monster. We have Danita Reese, one of the most creative people you'll ever meet. Ann Ryan, Sonia Adorno, Jalima Cook. What's up, Cook family? Eric Cook, Jalima Cook. Hopefully you all are doing well. Juan Baxter also has a birthday in January. My good friend Angela Terry. What's up, AT? And we also have Minister Hershey Coles, senior, who has a birthday in January. We also have Amy Mills Gibbs, and we also have Letitia Carroll. What's up, Letitia? Letitia is a phenomenal missionary who goes all over the place spreading the word of God. So I asked you all a community question, right? So we got the birthdays out. Oh, I forgot one birthday. My dad through marriage, Arthur Barfield, his birthday is on January the 25th. So happy birthday, Dad. So I asked you all, I asked a community question, and I love the responses and feedback that I get from our community questions. The community question was, what are your self-care goals for 2024? The question is, what are your self-care goals for 2024? So you all lit it up. I also sent some text messages to some people because I just wanted to get a sense and get a feel for what everyone's self-care goals are for this year, and how I can, serve as an accountability partner, how I can encourage people and whatever their goals are. So I have I have a few people. I have Kyle Ian on Facebook who said being consistent. That is his self-care goal. It's two words, but it has so much weight because we know that consistency ties into discipline, and discipline can be so difficult. We have Trish Bydron Gears who said reconnecting with dear friends. My friend Trish, just please know that I share the same sentiment. Pauline Washington, who says spending more time in prayer and studying God's word for her spiritual growth. That is an ultimate form of self care. I have Sade Massey. And Sade said, I buried my father on December 22nd. I'm still grieving. I usually go to get my nails and toes done, but honestly, God is telling me to sit still and be quiet. So that's what I'm going to do because things are coming to light and I listen. And as I listen and I'm obedient, at least I'm trying to be after I hear what I want to share the rest of myself with the world, I got some things coming. So what she's saying right there is that her self care usually is she gets her nails done and everything else like that. But what her self care regimen has changed since the passing of her father, which is she feels that she needs to sit still. And sometimes we don't need to do anything. Sometimes it's just something and just sitting still and listening to what God is saying. That is so important. We get so caught up in motion and movement that we forget to sit still. So, Sade, our hearts are with you, the Tommy Talk Show family of listeners and the team. Our hearts are with you for your loss. You are in our thoughts and in our prayers, and we send you our most sincerest and deepest condolences, my friend, and wishing you a very quick, not even a quick, wishing you healing as you continue in this journey. All right. So I have a few other people here. I have my good friend and sister, honestly, Sarah Duncan, who says she wants to start meditating and praying daily. She says she wants to do yoga 30 minutes. For 30 minutes, 3 times a week, and she wants to read more books, at least 20 for the year. Let me tell you something about that goal. Right there, that was so specific. She knows how many days a week she wants to do the yoga and how much time she wants to spend during each one of those sessions. So we got to be specific with our goals and our self-care regimens. I have two other self-care goals that were shared with me that I'm going to actually bring up a little bit later. But before I go any further, I want to share with you what my self-care goals are. And then I'm going to put our producer on the spot to see if he has any self-care goals. I know he hates it when I do that. Okay, he's shaking his head. No, so don't put him on the spot.
I'm not a self-care person.
But listen, he is. Let me tell you.
But I'm not.
Okay. So listen, I want to tell you that my producer, you get that mic in front of you. My producer is probably like one of the most self-care conscious people I know. First of all, the dude is very much into exercise. He's very consistent with it. He rides his bike. He exercises all the time. You know what I mean? And I honestly think that coffee is one of your self-care things because you are like a coffee connoisseur.
Yeah, you know what it is? I don't disagree with the term. I totally get it, and I agree with the term. But I think the crazy thing for me is just I don't understand. People define it so many different ways that I don't know where to insert. So when I first heard self-care, it's I go to the spa and I this, that, and the third. And it's all this like bourgeois stuff that's like, oh, that gets me calm. And I'm like, no, I get out and ride 25 miles and listen to the birds and listen to the wind and the traffic coming behind me. I pray, I worship, and I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm mentally healed. I'm physically better. And then I argue with somebody because they're like, well, that's not self-care because you're exercising. I'm like, well, it works for me. You know what I'm saying? So if I can get both of them done at the same time, don't knock what I'm doing. Or at one time, talking live was self-care for me because I'm engaging with people through a pandemic. So and then those who are experts in it, they know the terminology. So I kind of shut up and listen to, give me the proper definition of it so I can say, oh, I do that.
Yeah.
And this is what I do that fits what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So if you tell me exercise ain't self-care, I'm cool with you. I'm cool with one of your guests that's coming on, my brother, George. It's like, then I'll say, okay, I'll leave that out. And then I can get down to what you said and I'll close right here. Coffee. So if that's the thing, I double down on that. I ignore everything. I get my coffee. I grind the beans. I do it from start to finish, from scratch. Spring water, purified, whatever, all the way down to no sugar, black coffee, no sugar, no cream. All
I
right.
know that's right. I know that's, but you know what? And that's the purpose. Thank you so much for that. And that's the purpose of today's show, because we are going to be asking our guests, what is self-care? And my experience with self-care is that it's actually a spectrum, and it's very individualistic. It's very individualized. So for you, self-care is, hey, I want to go for a bike ride. Somebody else, self-care may be, I want to go,
Tommy, I'm
to the
giving you
spa.
credit for that healing. Thank you for helping me define what the ham sandwich self-care is for me. Thank you, sir. I'm giving you credit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know what? We're going to get some clarity. We're going to get additional clarity from Dr. George James.
Oh, yes.
Oh yes.
The bishop.
The bishop. Bishop Dr. George, the Reverend. Let me introduce this man. Let me introduce him. So everybody, you should be familiar with Dr. George James. He's actually been a guest on the Tommy Talk Show. Actually, a few episodes ago, when we were talking about healing beneath his armor. I think that was the topic, and we spoke a lot about how men need to heal beneath the facade, beneath the strength. Men need to heal beneath that layer of strength, right? And Dr. George James dropped some nuggets that I actually still listen to this day. So here's who he is. We have Dr. George James, the CEO of George Talks, a communication and consulting company. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist, executive coach, corporate and media consultant, relationship and parenting expert, and mental health ambassador. Dr. George James is an expert guest on various programs, including The Today Show, CBS Morning, CNBC, Nickelodeon, NBC News Daily, NBC News Now, Today, Good Day LA, Good Day Philadelphia, and many others. He is the host of Leapcast podcast. He works extensively with professional athletes, entertainers, adult men and women, executives, couples on various issues, including career, anxiety, work-life balance, love life, leadership, parenting, depression, and communication. Without further ado, here is our guy and friend of the Tommy Talk Show. We have with us Dr. George James. What's up, Dr. James?
What's good, man? Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. I love being on the show, man. I love the energy that you have and the way that you're about healing and impacting people, man. So thanks.
Wow, man. Thank you so much. That means a lot, especially coming from you, Dr. James. You're like my big brother, slash the big brother of the Tommy Talk Show. So just know that I look up to you and that I definitely admire and I appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So our conversation today is pretty much going to be centered around preparing everybody for a successful year. When we start, a new year, it's always, full of excitement. Well, actually, it's full of mixed feelings. So, right. So the prior year, especially like in that, October, November, December area, can be a little gloomy, people are passing, etc. Right. And then, we start the new year and people have their goals and all this other stuff. So we just want to make sure that people are prepared, that they're undergirded with what they need. And one of the things that came up and that we've been hearing a lot about is self-care, right? So Pelzer and I, we had a very interesting conversation about self-care. So Dr. James, what is self-care?
I love what you actually shared earlier, that it is on a spectrum, and I agree completely. That because a lot of us are trying to figure out what self-care means. A lot of us are trying to figure out what self means, what care means, and then you try to put it together. I mean, like, what does it really mean to take care of myself? And that can be so different. And, the reason why I said, like, a lot of people are trying to figure out what self means is, like, who am I? What do I want? Where are my struggle areas? Where are my triumphs? And then what is care? Like, is it that I go to the nail and get my nails done? Because, like, look, I'll get a pedicure in a minute. But is it also that I'm having meaningful conversations with my children because I feel disconnected, and that makes me feel better?
Wow.
Really thinking about what is care and then putting it together. And like you said, I think it's definitely on a continuum.
Wow, Dr. James, it wasn't until you just broke it down to where it's like actually two separate words. Because whenever you hear self-care, you just think it's just self-care. But it
Right.
really is a component of self and then care. And you hit on something because it's so important for us to know ourselves and sit within ourselves to really know what we need to care for ourselves. So you just took this whole interview in a whole different trajectory, right? So I just want to let you know that, right? We're going off script here. So how do we sit in self? How do we get to that space where we become more familiar with ourselves? Because I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she said that that's one of the things she's doing. She said, I'm trying to figure me out. And I told her that we're always evolving, we're always growing. So we're always going to need to always be in that space almost all the time to figure out what still works for us, what still, like when I was a kid, I loved Skittles. Now don't put one near me. You know, I've evolved, I've grown, my taste buds literally have changed. So how do we sit within ourselves to figure out who we are and what we need?
Yeah, it's like Peltz or your producer was sharing about being out in nature and being with the birds, right? Like it's about paying attention to those things that come up, the sounds, the conversations, and then saying, what does that mean for me, right? Like I've been in conversations where someone said like, oh, I didn't even realize that until somebody said something, right? Like,
Wow.
Just last night I was sharing with my wife, it's like, yo, I didn't realize like how many times my dad, as he got older, I was dealing with health issues, that he was just saying stuff about dying, right? Like, and
Wow.
it's like I didn't think about it, and then like now that I'm of a certain age, I'm like, there's a part of us when we get to a certain place in life where we start to maybe give up. We say like, oh, it's over for me. I can't go back to school. It's too late. I can't learn that language, or I can't do my physical goals because it's too late. And you
Yeah.
can be 32, right? But
Yeah.
you don't realize that you're telling yourself it's too late. And so the self thing is recognizing, when did I start doing that? Why?
Wow.
Why am I doing that? Why
Wow.
would I believe at 33 or 40 or whatever that like it's over for me? Like, yeah, something's over. You're not getting in the league. It's over,
Yeah.
right? Give up, right? Like there's some things that's just not happening. But there's some other things that we don't realize that we're shutting it down and
Wow.
not giving ourselves. One of my key talks is giving ourselves permission. And we don't realize that sometimes we're saying no. So those are the ways that we really learn more about ourselves, is that we ask ourselves questions. Hey, why do I think that way? Why do I feel that way? Why do
Wow.
I want to do this? Why do I want Skittles when somebody else wants an apple?
Wow.
Right? Is it
Wow.
because I was used to Skittles? Is it because that's all I saw in my neighborhood? Is that because I don't like apple? I mean, it can seem simple,
Yeah.
but that question could get you on a trajectory of recognizing like, oh yeah, all we had was a corner store. My
Yeah.
parents didn't really have a lot of money.
Wow.
We didn't eat a lot of candy, but it was a treat. So now when I want to treat myself, I want Skittles.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, like, we're in a whole nother place.
Yeah. Woo! Golly. How you woo! That thread right there. Um, you hit on something where you said it's important for us to be mindful of ourselves, but then you also peripherally you mentioned being mindful of our own self-talk and the thoughts that go through our mind. And sometimes we just allow those things to happen, and we're just hearing these thoughts that say, you know what, I can't, and I think that even that thinking may impact how we plan our lives. Because if you're thinking that you can't, you'll start planning for something all the way over here when you actually could. So
Yep.
how do we get past that I can't?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so normal for all of us, right? And to add in, maybe a spiritual aspect, right? Like there is listening to God speaking to you. There's listening to the Holy Spirit. But it's also trying to figure out, what is my own self-talk?
Yeah, yeah, buddy.
And which one is which?
God, was that
and
you?
that's where you go. Right. That's where you go to your pastor. That's where you go to your Bible study to really discern, is this the voice of God, or is this my internal, is this the enemy? Like all of those, because to really figure that out takes a lot of work and discernment. And
Wow.
so just the other day, my daughter was like, "Oh, I hate math." Now, she's in advanced math, but
Mm-hmm.
she's saying, "I hate math." And we were like, "Oh, you're already setting yourself up," or "I hate tests." You're already
Wow.
setting yourself up for the next test to say, "I already hate it. Now I'm going to
Yeah.
be anxious." Then you're
Yeah.
going to say, "I don't know what to do." And then you get that one problem that you
Yeah.
don't know what to do. Now you're like, "See, now I'm going to fail." All
Wow.
of a sudden you've set yourself up on this course. And then when you get the grade that you don't want, now you're saying, "See, I knew I couldn't do it." Like for
Wow.
me, for me, it was procrastination. Like
Hmm.
especially in college, I would be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna play a game. I'm gonna take a nap. I'm gonna push it off," because underneath it, I was scared that what if I applied myself and I didn't get a good grade?
Wow.
Then that means something's wrong with me. So the self-talk can get us down a road, but it's being aware and
Yeah.
listening and willing to ask yourself some questions.
Yeah. So, and even with what you were saying, it had flecks and speckles of accountability. Like when you were saying, it's important for us to, if we're hearing these, hey, is that God or is that me or is that the enemy? Or, because we all get to that space, and to be able to say, what, go to your leader so you can get that clarity. That right there is accountability to provide that clarity and to help keep you in alignment so that you're getting the most out of your life, and that you're in alignment with what the thing, and that you're in alignment with the things of God. So
Yeah.
accountability is important. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying. And then also the power of our words. The power of our words to manifest things. And then when we see that thing manifested, it just continues that spiral. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. Okay, so let me cause I could keep my foot on that gas right there the entire show. Let me woo, let me ask you a question. So listen. So this is what I want to do. And I may have to bounce back and forth because
All good.
because I really wanted to do this. So when I reached out to somebody, a dear friend, and I asked them, I said, what is their self care? What is their self care goal for 2024? Here is what they said to me. And almost, I'm 100% certain that there are other people who are listening who are also in the same boat. And I just want to see what comes up for you, what your thoughts are, what your recommendations, and what your advice is. All right, from what this person shared. So she says, I said, what are your 2024 self-care goals? She said her self-care goal is less stress, letting go of the God weight, and in parentheses, she put things I'm not meant to carry, mentally,
Mm.
emotionally, spiritually, and physically. To be more organized and more decisive. I've struggled with indecisiveness for far too long, and I pray to make more clear and concise decisions. Also, to prioritize my health and well being, just to name a few. So, based on, I know it was a couple things in there, right?
Yeah.
And each thing could be its own episode, right? But what surfaces to you the most of what I just shared, and what thoughts or what advice would you share with someone who, our listeners, who are also in the same boat?
Yeah. Shout out to her for being willing to really be that thoughtful and
Yeah.
reflective and clear about what she wants to do and maybe even needs to do.
Hmm.
The thing that really jumps out is that you don't get to that place without recognizing these have been some challenges for me, and I need to
Hmm.
find a way through. I love the indecisive part, right? Like I
Hmm.
recognize that is, and maybe that my indecisiveness has led to some extra God weight, right? That and so maybe
Wow.
if I work on making some decisions, I'm just gonna trust God, or I'm gonna let someone else do that, or I'm just gonna do it. And one of the things that is interesting, and just being around some other people, sometimes indecisiveness is that we're trying to figure out what the right or best or perfect thing is,
Hmm.
and there isn't. Do I go left or
Hmm.
right? I'm still going to the mall. I'm gonna go left.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go right.
Yeah.
So what I would encourage for her is to then just practice making a decision
Yeah.
and dealing with the worry and the anxiety that we feel, because that's what keeps us paralyzed.
Yeah.
And then from there you might start to realize, I've been trying to make it perfect on my own.
Hmm.
That's the weight I've been carrying. That's
Wow.
why I'm indecisive.
Wow.
Maybe if I just start to decide, or let God, or let someone else, or give it to whomever,
Hmm.
now I'm not carrying it because
Yeah.
I don't have to hold it. Now, there's a whole deep dive there for all of us of
Yeah.
like, and this is just something I've been recently going through and thinking about, just in
Mm-hmm.
a conversation last night about, do I get my value out of what I do?
Hmm.
And if I only get my value out of what I do or accomplish, am I leaving enough room for God to do it?
Wow.
And that's the place where I then have to make the decision, and then I struggle to make the decision perfect, and
Yeah.
now become indecisive.
Wow. 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 And just what you shared right there, it kind of ties into again what you shared in the beginning, like sitting within yourself to even get to the root of that indecision. And again, looping in that pastor or possibly even looping in that leader to say, here's something that's going on, and that pastor, that leader, even or therapist or friend
Yes.
can help
Yeah.
identify, hey, um here's what the root of that is. Because a lot of times we'll look at the manifestation of things. And to your point, like if I said when we were talking about the Skittles, that was the manifestation of my preference. But what is the origin of the preference? How did it get there? And when you figure out how did it get there, is do you even identify with that origin right there? So that was really interesting. I got one more for you, actually.
All right.
Is that cool?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
Okay,
go.
okay, okay. So the one that I read before with my good friend Sade Massey. She spoke about she said, I buried my father on December 22nd and I'm still grieving. I usually go to get my nails and toes done, but honestly, God is telling me that I need to sit still and be quiet. So that's what I've been doing. So what comes up for you there, and what advice, because I'm sure that again there are other people who are listening who have been in that same space where that self-care regimen, especially when you walk with the Lord, right, that self-care regimen may shift a little bit, for what he needs from you so that he can impart, uplift, challenge, all that good stuff. So what surfaces for you there?
Yeah, I think it's um, really profound, like her ability to say, like, I need to just, I feel God is leading me to be still.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when we're grieving, we feel like we need to do and get over it, and fix it and be better. And truthfully, that's also the messages that we're getting from people around us, including
Wow.
folks of faith, right?
Yeah.
They start to make you feel like, hey, why aren't you over this? Like,
Wow.
that's not really how we deal with grieving and
Mm.
loss. It really is a process.
Yeah.
I've lost both of my parents, and
Mm.
I think about them more after losing them
Yeah.
than I did when they were alive.
Yeah.
The thought of them comes up in lots of different ways. Just like
Mm.
I said, randomly yesterday, I was thinking about my father and the connection and what that meant for me. So it is actually important to be able to take the time. And something that I thought of right before we started is that coming into the new year, a lot of us have emotional hangovers, and 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 for me, the reason why I'm saying that, I started to have conversations with people of like, the build up to Christmas, and then Christmas happens, and then there's a letdown,
Hmm.
and then there's like everything else starts to hit you,
Hmm.
and then you might have some anniversaries or some losses, like anniversaries of losses or new
Mhm.
losses,
Mhm.
and then now you got to go do the new year. You didn't even have time to breathe yet, right?
Wow.
With everything, and now emotionally, you're just you're a hangover. You're not functioning in your full self. And now
Yeah.
I gotta have resolutions. I gotta have goals. Man, come
Wow.
on! It's like, I'm not gonna do nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I might say it, but I don't have the fullness to go after it. So
Hmm.
sometimes being able to sit still,
Hmm.
reflect, pray, get accountability, start small. That
Yeah.
actually can maybe get me to the place where I sober up emotionally to
Hmm.
go where I need to go.
Wow. 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 Thank you for that, Dr. James. And just there, man, um, how all that pressure from the previous year and everything else that's going on in life can leave us depleted. and just needing to, and it also ties into expectations and standard, right?
Yeah.
Commercially, and the things that's in our families, our networks, even in our churches, but being giving ourselves enough grace just to sit still and say, you know what, I'm cool. You know what, let me go ahead and get myself together. And
Yeah.
being aware that that's what's needed. Wow.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
feeling guilty for doing it. Wow.
Not. And all those things become, like you said, expectations and pressures that we've been putting on ourselves for years, and
Yeah.
that the people, our family, our children, and our faith community might put on us. And being able to say, it's okay, I can give
Yeah.
myself permission to just let me be still, let me listen to God, let me heal, and I'm not going to completely heal, but get
Yeah.
enough healing so I can go after whatever I need to go after.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that. We have about 2 minutes left. And I want to ask you one last question. And this is a question I asked in a previous episode. If we were pulling together a toolkit, um, and you could put anything in there, whether it's an actual object, a thought, an idea, whatever, for somebody to be positioned to have a successful 2024, what would you put in that toolkit for that person?
Yeah, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to answer your question about self-care goals and the toolkit, right? The thought for me is making the time to think, to do, to reflect, because I can be on the go, right?
Yeah.
As well as using that time to do all those other things to take care of myself in all the ways I need to.
Yeah.
And so I would put time in the toolkit.
Yeah.
That a lot of us don't make the time for the things that we need.
Wow.
And I would put some time in it. I would put some reflection in it. I would put some accountability in it. I'll put the Calm app. I would put the Bible app. I would put a comedy app, like, because we
Let's
need to
go.
laugh and have a good time.
Yes.
Right? Like all the things that would allow us to then recognize that life has its ups and downs. But if I can use these things, I can feel the up and the good and not stay on the down. Wherever you are, you don't have to feel down. You don't have to feel discouraged or stay there. There are things and people and resources that can help you. Get the coach, get the Bible app, laugh yourself, and have that accountability, and you can be in a better space.
Woo! Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Dr. James, that is our time. Where can people find you?
Hey, man, always a pleasure. They can find me on your podcast because that's where I'm at.
Hey! Oh, yeah.
You can find me on georgetalks.com. Also, Instagram and X/Twitter. My handle is @GeorgeTalks. And if you do get a chance when you're listening to other podcasts, you can check out my podcast, Leapcast, LEAP cast, wherever you get your podcast.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Dr. James, thank you so much, my friend. We really appreciate you here. I love you, my friend. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Tommy Talk Show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is your boy T.W. Suggs from the Tommy Talk Show. And as you can see, I have my amazing guest, Dr. Viedra Jackson, in the studio with me, y'all. Listen, if y'all could have been a fly on the wall for these behind the camera conversations, and it's not just she and I, it's our producer who cuts up too. You know what I mean? So if you're just tuning in, we are having a conversation about preparing ourselves for a successful new year in 2024. Right. So we know that, at the beginning of a year, we are we're dealing with some things from 2023. A lot of people may have passed. We're dealing with, the excitement of a fresh year. And there's like a lot of mixed emotions. So we want to make sure that everybody is prepared for 2024, both mind, spirit, body, everything. Right. So we just had Dr. George James on the show. We have to introduce Layla.
Because Layla wants herself.
Don't edit this out. Don't edit this out. We have to introduce Layla. Layla is our mascot. She's the pup of the studio. She's the studio mascot. That's our baby. Aww. She said, I want to get on camera.
Yeah. She said, look.
Yeah, put her on camera.
She said, look.
Layla, why?
Layla.
That's the baby right there.
Say hi to the camera.
Layla is famous. I can't wait to tell.
Oh, that is so funny. So listen, we just want to have everybody prepared for 2024. We had Dr. George James on, who spoke to us about self-care, and we're going to continue that conversation today. Oh my goodness, we're going to continue that conversation. But I want to introduce Dr. Viedra Jackson. First of all, you all should know who Dr. Viedra Jackson is. First of all, just from her own show and from her book, but also because she is a friend of the Tommy Talk Show. She's been on here before when we had the conversation about celebrating phenomenal women.
Yes.
And when I say it was Dr. Jackson, it was Robin Sean Maddox, and we had Tina Pelzer. And when I say they were dropping hammers in here, oh my gosh, y'all have to go back to that episode. You also have to check out Dr. Jackson. But listen, Dr. Viedra Jackson is an award-winning author, educator, and entrepreneur who was recognized as a leading educational trainer in trauma-informed practices and DEIB. We got to talk about that. She is a veteran educator with over 20 years of experience supporting nonprofit and executive leadership, which has led her to becoming the CEO and founder of Living Strong Consulting, LLC. She is a highly sought-after keynote speaker and consultant. Her commitment to leaders and organizational development is elevated through her John Maxwell Team certification. Her internet radio show and podcast on Voice America's Empowerment Station, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, entitled Living Strong, The Flip Side of Adversity, reaches listeners in more than 40 countries with inspirational, authentic, and practical stories from lived experiences by her guest co-hosts. Her 2019 book and video series, Fearless Conversations with a Limitless God, provides insight on addressing the challenges of breaking the cycle of toxic thoughts that keep women in hiding places. Woo. Welcome, Dr. Jackson.
I am so honored to be back.
Woo!
I am so honored to be back. It's always going to be a
man.
yes. Anytime you invite me into your space.
You got me blushing over here, Dr.
Into your
Jackson. You better
space.
stop.
It is just a
Aw.
pleasure.
Thank you so much,
Oh,
Dr. V.
Absolutely. You're
That
welcome.
means a lot. We at the beginning of when we were talking behind the scenes, we wanted to give some people some shout out. Talk to us about this beautiful piece right here.
I know, right? So I have a girlfriend. Her name is Esther Moore. Her
Mhm.
business is Lale Flowers.
Mhm.
And in 2023, Lale Flowers has gone global.
Come
And
on.
so influencers from all over the world
Yeah.
now wear Lale Flowers. She is
Come
a
on.
custom accessory designer.
Yeah.
And whenever I am doing anything significant, I absolutely make sure that I am representing my Lale flower,
Wow.
something that she creates, because you know what? This whole thing is about uplifting one another.
Yes, ma'am.
Uplifting one another. And when you have a small business owner
Yeah.
who does things that are done well, done
Yes, ma'am.
beautifully, and done with integrity,
Yeah.
you got to support.
I know that's right. Does she do stuff for men too?
She sure does.
Hey!
Has a whole line.
Come on.
Mhm.
I think as a man who loves fashion, that's one of the biggest barriers, is that you'll have designers to do stuff for women, but then it's like, forget about the dude. So I will be hitting you up. All right.
Yes. Yes, you will not be sorry.
Woo! Thank you. And I want to give a shout out to not Michael Drinks. It is Michael Drinks. Michael Drinks for Obey God. This is his t-shirt line. Just want to give you a shout out, brother. Thank you so much. And this is an original. This is the first version of this with the metallic gold that he did. So thank you,
That's
brother.
why.
Oh,
'Cause
yes.
I could. Okay. All right.
Now you're here.
Wait a minute. He ain't talking.
Hey,
This
Michael,
sounds
I'm sorry,
special.
bro. I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to put you on the spot, bro. So listen, let's hop into this conversation. So we're talking about preparing ourselves for a successful new year. And one of the things that we talked about was self-care and like just really caring about ourselves. But before we started recording, you spoke about the difference between self-care and soul care.
Yeah.
I never heard of soul care until today. So can you talk to us about what the difference is and what soul care actually is?
So I actually want to back up
Yes,
a
ma'am.
little bit
Yep.
because I'm actually launching an entire resource in 2024
Ooh, yes, ma'am.
around this understanding that people are often talking about how tired they are.
Yeah.
And after everything we have been through and everything we have overcome, we actually aren't tired, we're depleted. And when you understand just taking a nap
Wow.
or just taking a trip
Wow.
is not necessarily going to address
Wow.
the depleted places of your soul.
Yeah.
It's just the whole conversation.
Yeah.
So I've really been talking about the 6 strategies for refill so that we can address the depleted places. So now to your question, why I talk about soul care is because self-care has gotten overused and misused.
Yeah.
And when something becomes so marketed that it becomes reduced to a gift card or a day off,
Yeah.
you lose the significance
Yeah.
of how it was originally designed
Wow.
to challenge people not to just get a manicure, but actually begin to change themselves,
Wow.
which people often don't want to do.
Hmm.
John Maxwell has a quote where people are often more anxious to change than their circumstances than themselves, and therefore they
Wow.
stay bound.
Wow.
And what I believe, as you were referencing the guest you just had before,
Yeah.
because we don't want to really understand the self
Yeah.
in self-care,
Yeah.
we don't want to actually look in the mirror
Yeah.
and address the stuff. Sometimes we will use the trip or the manicure
Yeah.
to run from
Wow.
the work that we actually
Wow.
need to do to dive into care. So soul care is addressing the depleted places in our emotional health, our mental stability, and the habits that no longer serve us. And so when we think about emotion, mind, and habits, that's our soul.
Wow. Okay.
And so we are not just dealing with the external healing, it forces us to look on the inside and heal from the inside out.
Wow. Woo. And you know what you just shared is reminiscent of what Dr. James shared, because he broke down the idea of, because whenever we hear self-care, we hear it as just this, it is so commercial now, right?
Yeah.
But we hear it as just this self-care, one word, right? But he said there's the self part and there is the care part, but self is multi-layered.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So if we're
Yes.
only dealing with the manicures and the vacation, that's only one layer of self.
Right.
But in order for us to really get down to the really deeper part, which is soul care, we have to deal with the mindset, the habits, the heart, the emotions. Woo! Are y'all hearing this?
And understand, I'm not saying that you can't get the massage, you can't
Right.
get the manicure.
Right. It has its place.
Because it does. It has its place. Because when we understand, and we talked about this on my show,
Yeah.
that when we understand how to heal from traumatic experiences,
Yeah.
toxic stress that has taken us over,
Yeah.
that is a body thing. That's body work.
Wow.
That's sensory based.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying the exercise is absolutely, because I run, exercise, strength train because that regulates my mind.
Yeah.
But I use it for regulation, not escape.
Wow. Woo! Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that is the deeper conversation that not only personally we should be having for 2024, but for organizations, churches, nonprofits. when we really want to help people not just pop up with this new year, new you, but I've really been talking about actually this very past week on my show, how if we drop this conversation around resolutions and actually began to think about our evolution, like how are we evolving in this year? I'm not this all of a sudden new person.
Evolution takes time.
I'm evolving. There is stuff in 2023 that didn't serve me that I need to decide to let go. But there's also some stuff that was hard that taught me that is now, I'm now allowing it to evolve me. And in that process, I am continuously allowing myself to stay very clear on how am I emotionally showing up. How am I mentally paying attention to what I believe about myself, about the world around me? And what habits do I need to begin to let go? Because when I talk with organizations, Dr. Figley, the foundational researcher to compassion fatigue, explains that there is an ethical imperative to our self-care. If you're someone who is serving others, who's influencing others, who's impacting others, you have an ethical imperative to take care of you. Not just about the manicure, but the you that is influencing others.
Woo! And it's so easy to get both of those so flip-flopped and be more focused on the external, because the external is so easy.
It's easy. It's the checklist.
How do we? You mentioned clarity, and I really feel that with a lot of us in reference to going into 2024. I think a lot of us struggle with clarity. And because we struggle with clarity, our goals aren't clear, or we'll set the wrong goal because we don't have clarity within ourselves. How do we get to that place of clarity?
It actually isn't that complicated. It really is simply a commitment, because I know as soon as I say it, people are going to probably roll their eyes, but clarity comes from getting still. Processing and evaluating. But we are often, especially as a culture, so focused on the grind and the hustle and trying to always create this movement. People are afraid to actually sit and think about, why did I respond that way? Why do I continue to ruminate over that thing? It is powerful, the timing of this conversation, because just this week, if I can give another shout out to my last guest, because we have a challenge going on right now. Kalila Lyons of the B-List Living Framework challenged us this past week for the rest of the month of January to invest in her B-List framework, which has us release this concept of trying to get on the A-list, which is all about our achievements, which become our identity, which leads you into a brokenness. Because as soon as she says you get bumped, which is the first B in the B list, the moment you get bumped, if your achievements are your identity, then you are sidelined.
We just talked about that.
You're sidelined. And so she has, if you follow me on social media, Dr. Virdra Jackson, you will see that I'm doing for the whole month of January, we're following her B-List framework of the bump, the bounce, the boost of what you need to do more of, or boost out because it's no longer serving you. She goes through 5 elements of B's that require you to be reflective.
I'm checking that out. I am checking that
It is
out.
on all my social media pages because then the powerful thing is at the end of January, she's coming back on the show
Mm-hmm.
to then interview me on how I navigated the B-list framework, B-list
Okay.
living framework for the
Okay.
month, to really have invested in myself
Yeah.
to continue to understand how am I evolving and how do I want to be in
Yeah.
2024, not just what I want to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Woo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. I'm checking that out.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. Let me ask you a question. So we have about like 5 minutes left, right? So I reached out to the community and I said, tell me what your self-care goals are for 2024,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now that we had this self-care versus soul care conversation, a lot of the stuff that they're sharing here is really soul care.
Yes.
So I want to read this one to you. And I
Yes.
want to hear what your thoughts are and what advice you would have for this person, because I know that there are other community members who may be in this same space. All right. And also let me preface it with this, that there may be 3 to 5 things that they're saying that they want to touch on. So whatever 1 or 2 things surface for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they said, for me, it's really a continuation and building on what I've learned over the last 3 years. Mental clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And emotional health. My priority over everything is to sustain mental and emotional health, to heal from trauma, and show up in love for my growing children. As a transitional family member, my purpose is to redirect the trajectory of my legacy and lead the way to prosperity experience here on earth. So emotional integrity and clarity are keys to my success and self-care journey. The physical will take care of itself if my mind is set in the right direction.
100%. First of
Okay,
all, 100%.
okay.
Because the power in what I hear from that person
Yeah.
is they have decided to become a generational cycle breaker.
Yeah.
So they are going to break the generational cycles that have no longer served those who have come through it, but that person has decided, I'm going to break the stuff that has kept my family bound.
Yeah.
And when we recognize that it's not just about how fast we can move through something or even the money that we throw at things, but will I focus on the legacy I'm leaving?
Wow.
Because our children are watching.
Yeah.
And if we are honest, we have not served them well. And this is what we are seeing over and over again in our communities.
Yes, ma'am.
They're literally crying out, and we are calling it something else when it really is just a cry for love.
Wow.
And if there's a quote, and I wish I could remember the original author, but in paraphrasing, the true indicator for healthy parenting actually isn't love. It is a parent who has reconciled their past.
Wow.
Because when you have reconciled what you've gone through, you've created meaning around it, and you have developed resilience. So that resilience is not just something that happens. It is the developmental skill of how you move forward, not bounce back, but how you move forward. When you reconcile that stuff, the love that comes out of that is just the byproduct of your own healing.
Wow.
So that person is a generational curse breaker, and that is their self-care journey.
Woo! I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bust the speakers on this thing. I'm sorry, but oh gosh. Sis, you know who you are. I hope you heard that. And for everybody else, my God, for everybody else who just heard that, where you are right now is not just for you, and the experiences that you had is not just for you, but you are here to break generational cycles. You heard it. Dr. Jackson, we have 2 minutes left, okay? So, all right, and So I'm gonna ask you this question, and then we're gonna ask where you how we can connect with you, right?
Mhm.
So we're pulling together a toolkit like we did last time
Yes.
for 2024 for our listeners. What do you want to put in the toolkit for them to have a successful new year?
So I'm going to give a shameless plug
Mm-hmm.
because refill
Mm-hmm.
is a process.
Come
And
on.
I would love for them to focus on refilling the depleted places.
Yeah.
Refill is an acronym. So it's rewire for relationships,
Okay.
ethical imperative of self-care,
Hmm.
find your strength, influence others, lead with legacy in mind, and leverage your energy. Refill. And if you want to dive deeper into understanding how to refill, DM me, Dr. Virdra Jackson, on IG at I am Dr. Virdra Jackson. Email address info@livingstrongllc.com, and we can absolutely set up a discovery call.
Wow. Dr. Jackson, thank you so much for being a guest on the Tommy Talk Show. You are somebody that I look up to. I look up to Dr. George James, and I look up to you as well. So thank you so much. Thank you.
That literally is an honor, and you are so welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Tommy Talk Show. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for the Tommy Talk Show, where we discuss preparing you for a successful 2024. That's what we have. Don't forget that the Tommy Talk Show is a part of P3 Christian Radio. We're affiliated with the Culture Talk Show. Our shows are produced and edited by the one and only Keith Pelzer. And we had Dr. George James on with us, and we had this wonderful lady right here, Dr. Virdra Jackson. Make sure you check us out at www.twsuggs.com and at TW Suggs on Facebook and Instagram. Stay dope, stay awesome. Peace.